Today we're going to see about the conservative approach to working capital financing. The conservative approach is the risk-free strategy of working capital financing. A company adopting this strategy maintains a higher level of current asset and therefore higher working capital also. The major part of the working capital is financed by the terms of sources of funds such as equity, debentures, term loans, etc. In the second point, in the conservatism approach, fixed asset, permanent working capital, and the part of temporary working capital are financed by long term financing sources, and the remaining part only is financed by short term financing sources. The primary objective of the working capital management is ensured. Next heading is financing strategy in equation. There is have a 2 point. First one is long term funds will finance equal to fixed asset plus permanent working capital plus part of temporary working capital. Then the second one is short term funds will finance equal to remaining part of temporary working capital. Next one is conservatism approach diagram. Before the diagram, we see the what is have in the diagram. First one is the dots lines horizontal line indicates the point to which the long term funds will be utilized. We can easily make out the long term funds are financing total fixed asset, total permanent asset, and a part of temporary working capital also. Seasonal requirements or temporary working capital has peaks and through. Now see the diagram. There is have a 3 levels. First one is fixed asset, second one is permanent working capital, and the last one is temporary working capital. In the fixed asset, there is not have a changes. It will go smooth to the end. Then the permanent working capital also there is no waves. It's a straight line. But the temporary working capital is have a look like a waves. So there is have a changes in the up and downwards. It is indicates the middle line is conservative strategy. Now see the advantages of conservative strategy of working capital financing. The level of working capital and current asset, inventory, account receivable, and most importantly liquid cash or bank balance is high. See in the second point, higher level of account receipts are due to relaxed credit term which is turn attach more customer and thereby higher sale means high purchase in more normal. The next heading is no insolvency risk. The most important part and highly relevant to financing strategy is the higher level of cash and working capital. Higher working capital avoids the risk of referencing which exist in case it is financed by short-term sources of finance. Not only the risk of refinancing but also the risk of adverse change in the interest rate while getting the short-term loans rewarded or avoided. See disadvantages of conservatism. High interest cost. This strategy employs short-term source of finance and hence there are all the changes that the rate of interest will be high. The theory of term prime say that the long-term fund have a higher interest rate compared to short-term funds. As risk presenter as a risk perspection and high is the case of long-term finance. Now we see in the first point, long-term loan cannot be fined off when wished, and if paid cannot be easily avoided back. As we noted in the diagram, long-term funds remain utilized in the time when seasonal inactively is not through. The next heading is higher carrying cost. A higher level of inventory and debenture implied higher carrying and holding cost, which have a direct impact on profitability. Next heading is inefficient working capital management. What is the inefficient of working capital management? If the margins of the firm are low for a particular year, a responsible part of it will be attributed to working capital management. Thank you.